Welcome to NoSleep Frequency, the podcast where every story lingers long after the lights go out. Tonight's story is about memory, the kind your mind buries so deep you don't even realize it's missing. Sometimes the past waits patiently for you to return to the place where it all began. And sometimes, when you do, you realize the monster you feared as a child might have been the only thing protecting you. This is a story about a neighbor, a fence that was far too tall, and the creature that used to look over it. The street name sounded vaguely familiar when I first read it, not enough to place it, just enough to make something itch at the back of my mind. A few landmarks on the drive sparked the same feeling. A corner store, a bend in the road, a cluster of tall trees, but nothing solid, nothing I could grab onto. It only clicked when I pulled into the driveway and saw the house next door, my childhood home. I sat there gripping the steering wheel long after the engine died. It backed onto a large stretch of woodland, just like I remembered. Tall trees towering above the roofline. The house itself looked abandoned now. Windows shattered, empty bottles scattered across dead yellow grass. No one had lived there in a long time, and somehow I had forgotten almost everything about it. My uncle moved me away from this neighborhood when I was 6 years old. According to my girlfriend Ellie, forgetting that much of your childhood isn't exactly normal. She thinks my brain blocked things out on purpose. Maybe she's right, because sitting there in the van, staring at that broken house, I felt something heavy settle in my chest. For a moment, I considered leaving. But I'd only started my lawn mowing business a few months earlier, and money was tight. This woman, my customer, was only the third client I'd managed to get. She hadn't called like the others. She emailed. Her message was short. "Am interested in your service. Every week, Sunday work." I replied that Sundays were fine and asked for the address. She sent it, then followed up with another message. "Door left open Sundays. Money on table, help self to drink and meal." It struck me as strange that someone living in this neighborhood would contact a lawn service an hour away instead of someone local, but she promised a generous tip. So here I was, still sitting in the van, staring at the house I used to live in, trying to remember my neighbor, elderly maybe. The emails felt that way, but when I searched my memory for her face, there was nothing there. Just another piece of my childhood swallowed by that strange amnesia. Her lawn was wildly overgrown, knee-high grass everywhere. The house itself looked perfectly normal. A neat two-story place with a porch, well-maintained, which made the yard feel almost intentional, like the wild grass was something she wanted. I stood there for a moment, debating whether to knock. In the end, I started mowing. Part of me realized later I was delaying meeting her. I couldn't explain why. As the mower pushed through the tall grass, my eyes kept drifting toward the fence separating her property from my old house. It was massive, easily 10 feet tall. I couldn't believe the city had approved something like that in a quiet suburban street. But it wasn't just the size. Every time I looked at it, pressure built behind my eyes, like a memory trying to force its way up, while something inside me shoved it back down. And then suddenly, something broke through. Hair, long black strands spilling down the other side of the fence, thin, tangled, draped over the wood like a ragged curtain. And I was a child again, sitting on a cheap plastic tricycle, one of the back wheels missing, so I had to balance my weight to keep it upright. The hair shifted, slowly. A pale forehead rose above the fence, then eyes, white, cloudy, watching me, only me. Then I heard a sound behind me, maybe someone calling my name. The eyes vanished, the forehead sank away, the hair slid upward, strand by strand, disappearing back over the fence until nothing remained. The memory snapped away. I nearly lost control of the mower. Cold spread through my body. I told myself it had to be imagination, something I invented as a bored kid. No one could peer over a 10-foot fence, and even if they could, Why would anyone climb that high just to watch a child playing in his yard? Still, the unease stayed, because that image, the hair, the eyes, it was suddenly one of the clearest memories I had. An hour later, the lawn looked respectable again. I packed my equipment away and went to the front door. I knocked. No answer. She'd said the door would be open, but walking into a stranger's house still felt wrong. After a few minutes, I tried the handle. It opened easily. "Ms. Ramona?" I called out. The first thing I noticed inside was the ceiling. It was unusually high, making the space feel wide, almost cavernous, and cold. The kitchen sat at the far end of the open room. On the table was money. Beside it sat a glass jug of lemonade with ice floating inside, a clean glass, and a sandwich on a plate. She had meant what she said. Help yourself. I picked up the money and counted it. 4 $50 bills. $200. I only charged $60. I took $100 and left the rest on the table in case she'd made a mistake. That's when I heard something upstairs. A wheezing breath. Wet. Uneven. Like air dragging through ruined lungs. Then the floorboards creaked. Someone was definitely home. I stared at the staircase. "Ms. Ramona?" I called. No answer. Part of me wanted to check if she was okay. Another part of me felt something much stronger. Leave. Now. The feeling was immediate and absolute. Like I had stepped into a place I was never meant to enter. Like bait. Instead, I grabbed the sandwich from the table, just to avoid seeming rude, and walked straight out. When I got back to the van, I finally opened the sandwich. Inside was butter and raw red meat. I stared at it in silence. Then I noticed something else woven through the meat. A hair. I pulled it free. It slid out slowly. Dark and absurdly long. I told Ellie everything. Well, almost everything. I didn't tell her about the memory at the fence. She laughed. "You're scared of a little old granny?" "I don't even know if she's a granny," I said. "You said she was your old neighbor." Her eyes softened. "Are you sure you don't remember anything else about that house?" Right then, another memory flashed through my mind. I remembered a strand of hair drifting down from that fence when I was little. I remembered catching it, wrapping it around my arm over and over like a mummy's linen. But I didn't tell her that either. Instead, I told her about the raw meat sandwich. Ellie laughed again. The poor woman probably has dementia. A week later, I went back. I didn't want to, but the money mattered, and Ellie convinced me I was overreacting. The moment I arrived, I looked at the fence again. This time, another memory surfaced. Long fingers curling over the top, a forehead, eyes watching me. I forced myself to start mowing. When I went inside afterward, there were $300 waiting on the table. Next to it sat a note. "Take all money. Why no drink?" I poured a glass of lemonade, planning to dump half of it down the sink. Instead, I took a sip. Cold, sweet, good. That night I dreamed. Food being thrown over a huge fence, sometimes roast chicken still warm in plastic bags, sometimes whole raw chickens, feathers still clinging to pale skin, sometimes fresh fruit, sometimes rotting apples, sometimes thick slabs of red meat, and I remembered the hunger. I remembered hiding beside the fence beneath a blanket draped over bushes, a small nest where I hoarded food, eating like an animal before anyone could find me. I remembered lice crawling through my hair, my scalp constantly itching. Then I remembered the hand. A huge hand sliding through the bushes, a finger brushing my hair aside. The itching stopped. I looked up. All I could see was a long gray arm stretching over the fence. I wrapped my tiny hands around that finger and cried. Then an angry voice came from the house. The finger gently pulled free. The arm vanished. Someone ripped away the blanket covering my hiding spot. They found the food, the rot, the flies, the maggots. Hands grabbed me and dragged me away. "Stop!" I screamed. The third time I returned to mow the lawn, everything was different. The memories were coming back now, clearer, piece by piece, and I knew I needed to see Ramona. I thought maybe she had been a kind old woman who watched me when I was little. Maybe she fed me. Maybe she protected me. Maybe she read me stories. That's what I told myself as I started the mower. But then another memory surfaced. I remembered being lifted high enough to see over the roof of my house. I remembered sitting on a tree branch deep in the woods. I remembered being handed a dead fox and biting into its fur. I remembered running from the house one night, shaking with hunger. Then my mother caught me. "Henry, you get back here right now, you little shit." She grabbed my arm and spun me around. "Mummy, stop!" I cried. "Don't hurt me again." She froze. Something brushed the back of my neck, like strands of long hair. My mother looked up. Her face went white. And then the fingers came. They wrapped around her body and lifted her, higher and higher. She was screaming. So I told her what I believed. "It's okay, Mummy. She's just taking you to see the stars." There was a terrible crunch. The screaming stopped. Something flew across the sky and disappeared into the forest. Then warm hands lifted me, gentle, careful. I finally saw her face, pale, gaunt. Her mouth stretched too wide across her skull, but her eyes, they were dark and warm. "Did Mummy like seeing the stars?" I asked. She hummed. Back in the present, I walked into Ramona's house, up the stairs. The attic floor stretched wide and open, and there she was, a very tall woman, her skin gray, her limbs impossibly long, curled carefully on a giant mat like she was trying to make herself smaller. Her eyes found mine. I collapsed to my knees and sobbed. Huge fingers wrapped around me, pulling me gently toward her warmth. "You killed her," I cried. "You killed my mother," she hummed softly. "Why?" Her fingers brushed my hair back. "Why didn't she care about me?" I whispered. "Why did she let me starve?" She didn't answer. She just held me, and eventually, I fell asleep. When I woke up, I was in a bed. Across from me sat a little old woman, tiny, fragile, her eyes distant. On the bed beside me was a note. The handwriting was shaky. I cursed with sighs and hunger, but I protect sweet little boy, cold and hungry. I carry you to the stars where she not reach. Lost myself when I took her. But she not hurt you anymore. Forgive me. Later, my uncle showed me photographs. Pictures of me as a child, bruises, burn marks, cuts. My mother had been a monster. And when she was found half-eaten in the woods, people called it karma. They thought an animal had done it. Maybe they were right. I kept visiting Ramona. Sometimes she was a tiny old granny. Sometimes something else. I brushed her hair, listened to her humming, stayed with her until the end. When she died, I fell asleep holding her hand. When I woke up, she was gone. Even now, the house sits empty, but I still mow the lawn every Sunday. And sometimes, when the grass is cut and the sky turns dark, I lie down and watch the stars. And for a moment, it almost feels like I'm rising above the roof of the house again. If this story stayed with you, let us know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like the episode and subscribe to No Sleep Frequency for more stories that refuse to let you sleep.